Emily Harper, 24, still smelled like turpentine from the art studio, where she spent every spare hour dreaming of Paris. Her canvases were bold, her future bright, until the bank letter arrived. The family mansion, 3 stories of peeling wallpaper and memories, was 48 hours from foreclosure. Her father, once a charming salesman, now a hollow-eyed gambler, dropped the ultimatum over cold toast. Marry Victor Lane, the mechanic who's offering to clear the debt, or pack a suitcase for the curb. Emily laughed until she realized he wasn't joking. Victor had already signed the papers. The wedding was tomorrow. She met him for the first time at the chapel, a squat brick box on the edge of town. Victor stood 6'2", in scuffed boots, overalls streaked with yesterday's oil. His hands were scarred, knuckles like walnuts, and his eyes, storm gray, never quite met hers. The priest smelled of mothballs. The only witnesses were her father and a bailiff clutching repossession forms. Emily's lace dress, borrowed from a cousin, scratched her skin raw. When the priest said, "Speak now or forever hold your peace," she wanted to scream. Instead, she whispered, "I do," through clenched teeth. Victor's vow was softer, almost tender. "I'll never hurt you." She didn't believe him. The kiss was a brush of lips, obligatory and dry. Her father exhaled like a man handed a lifeline, scribbled his name, and vanished before the ink dried. Outside, gravel crunched under Emily's heels as she ripped the veil from her hair. "You bought me like a spark plug," she shouted. Victor opened the passenger door of a dented pickup. "Get in. It's starting to rain." She obeyed because the bailiff was already taping an eviction notice to the mansion's front door. He drove to a trailer parked behind Lane's Auto Repair, a tin box with one window and a sagging awning. Inside, a hot plate, a card table, a couch that smelled of motor oil and lemon soap. Emily locked herself in the bathroom, sat on the closed lid, and cried until her ribs hurt. At 3 a.m., she heard the soft clink of a plate outside the door. She cracked it open. Mac and cheese, golden crust, exactly the way her mother used to make it before the cancer, before the fire that took the house and half her childhood. Steam curled up like a question mark. She ate standing over the sink, ashamed of how good it tasted. Morning light revealed the rules of their Cold War. Emily claimed the couch. Victor unrolled a sleeping bag on the concrete floor of the garage. He left for work at 6, returned at 7 with takeout containers he never shared. She refused to speak. He answered silence with post-it notes stuck to the coffee pot. "Coffee's hot. Umbrella by door. Rain today. Your sketchbook is on the shelf if you want it." She wanted to tear them up, but found herself smoothing the yellow squares into a neat stack. The town buzzed. At the diner, waitresses whispered, "Poor little rich girl married the town mule." Emily walked to the library to use the public computers. Her laptop had died the night of the wedding. The portfolio for the Paris grant was due in 9 days. She typed until her fingers cramped, saved everything to a USB, and prayed. That night, the laptop sat on the card table, screen glowing, a sticky note on the lid. "Fix the motherboard. Added RAM so it won't crash again." She opened it. Her files were there, plus a new folder labeled Backup underscore Paris. She stared at the trailer's peeling linoleum and felt something shift, small but undeniable. Days blurred. She watched Victor through the grimy window while pretending to read. Orphanage kids biked up every Saturday with broken toys, dolls missing limbs, teddy bears with split seams. Victor laid them on a workbench like surgical patients, soldering, stitching, painting new smiles. He never charged. One boy hugged him so hard his feet left the ground. Emily's throat tightened. She told herself it was dust in the air that on the 8th night, she couldn't sleep. The garage light was still on. Curiosity dragged her barefoot across cold concrete. A steel drawer beneath the tool bench was padlocked, a faded label in Sharpie, "Yar, do not open." Her initials. The lock was cheap. She picked it with a bobby pin, a trick learned in art school for opening supply closets. Inside lay her childhood sketchbook, the one she thought burned with her mother. Every page was annotated in Victor's neat block letters. Age 6. First use of perspective. Age 10. Color theory genius. The last page held a plain ticket. Paris, one way. Departure tomorrow. Her name in bold. Her pulse hammered so loud, she almost missed the soft footstep behind her. She spun around, sketchbook clutched to her chest like armor. Victor leaned in the doorway, arms crossed, grease still under his nails. "You weren't supposed to see that yet," he said, voice low, almost apologetic. Emily's words tumbled out sharp and hot. "Who are you, really? How do you have this? Why my initials on a locked drawer, like I'm some spare part?" He didn't flinch. "Sit," he said, nodding to the workbench. Story time. He started with the smell of turpentine. 12 years ago, a skinny scholarship kid named Victor Lane showed up at the community center art class because it was free and warm. The teacher was Claire Harper, Emily's mother, radiant even while chemo thinned her hair. She saw something in the quiet boy who drew engines the way other kids drew dragons. Claire taught him shading with motor oil on scrap metal, perspective with broken headlights. When the cancer won, she made Victor promise on her last lucid day, watch over Emily. She'll need someone who sees the world the way she does. He was 16. She was 38. He kept the promise like a vow carved in steel. Emily's knees buckled. She sat on a stool. Victor kept talking. At 19, he patented a valve that cut emissions by 40%. Investors swarmed. By 22, he sold the company for $180 million, walked away, and vanished into the same town because the mansion's foreclosure notices kept landing on his desk. He bought the debts quietly, year after year, waiting for the day the bank would force a choice. "I never wanted the money to touch you," he said. "I wanted you to choose the man, not the myth." She laughed, a cracked sound. "You manipulated my entire life." Victor opened a cabinet. Inside hung a single key on a red ribbon. Trailer's a front. Real house is 20 minutes up the ridge. Glass walls, north light, studio the size of a hangar. Never slept there. Couldn't. Not without you deciding I was worth more than the grease. He slid annulment papers across the bench. "Sign. Paris tickets, still yours. Debts erased either way. I release you." Dawn bled pink through the garage slats. Emily drove herself to the orphanage, needing air that didn't smell like secrets. Kids spilled out like confetti, shouting Victor's name, though he wasn't there. A gap-toothed girl thrust a crayon drawing into Emily's hands. Stick figure Victor fixing a bike, stick figure Emily painting rainbows overhead. The caption read, "Thank you for marrying our hero." Emily's eyes stung. She folded the drawing into her pocket like contraband. That afternoon, she found the ridge road, tires crunching pine needles. The mansion unfolded, floor-to-ceiling windows, wildflowers spilling over stone. Inside, her childhood paintings lined the halls, salvaged from the fire, frames restored. In the studio, an easel weighted with fresh linen. Tucked behind a canvas, a letter in her mother's handwriting. "My brave girl, if Victor ever finds you, trust his heart. He's the son I never had. Love doesn't always wear a suit. Sometimes it wears coveralls and smells like hope." Emily stayed until stars punched holes in the sky. She tore the annulment papers into snow, let the scraps drift across the hardwood. At 5:03 a.m., she walked barefoot down the hill, engine grease still on her fingertips from painting a new wedding band on a scrap of tin. Victor was under a pickup, legs sticking out, radio humming old country. She tapped his boot. He slid free, face streaked, eyes wary. She held out the tin ring, lopsided but gleaming. "I choose the mechanic," she said. "The money can wait in the bank. You can't." His grin cracked wide, the first she'd ever seen. He slipped the ring on, grease and all, then lifted her until her feet left the ground. They kissed like the world had just invented the concept. 1 year later, the Paris Gallery opened to flashing cameras. Emily's name glowed in gold above the door, but the dedication plaque read, "Simply for the man who fixed more than engines." Half the year they lived in the trailer, mac and cheese on the hot plate, orphanage kids underfoot. The other half they woke to glass walls and mountain light. Emily painting while Victor sketched new patterns on napkins. Her belly rounded under loose smocks. He built a crib from reclaimed steel. Every welder promised. On the garage wall, she finished the mural the day their daughter kicked for the first time. A jet with Victor's name on the tail, a mechanic and an artist hand in hand beneath it, hearts stitched like teddy bears. Passers-by slowed their cars to stare. Emily stepped back, paint on her cheek, and smiled at the man changing oil in the bay. Love, she learned, isn't a private jet or a crumbling mansion. It's the quiet click of a fixed laptop, a plate left outside a locked door, a promise kept across 12 impossible years. She was forced to marry a mechanic and discovered the richest currency is the one you can't buy.